the Shark Deck.
It's Joketober! Hi, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Joketober, something we used to do at the satellite radio place. Maybe I'll bring it back. I'm the one that came up with it. Not that it was that hard to come up with it. I don't want to make it out like I'm Einstein or the Beatles here, that I just went Joketober. David Letterman could have been in the movie Airplane, except for the part about his audition and they didn't pick him. But theoretically, David Letterman could have been in Airplane. There's a new book. It's called Surely You Can't Be Serious, The True History of Airplane by David Zucker, Jim Abrahams, and Jerry Zucker, a.k.a. ZAZ, the comedy trio that made Airplane and some other movies of that genre. David Letterman did a screen test for the role of Ted Stryker. Letterman tells the story. I get out there, and they had set up a cockpit for the aircraft with chairs. I had a chair, and there was another chair where the co-pilot would be. We did the scene once, and then they came in and gave me some notes. Then we did it maybe 2 more times, and I kept saying all along, I can't act. And then one of them came to me after the audition and said, you're right, you can't act. The new book's out October 3rd, counts on my fingers, so that's Tuesday, right? The book has interviews from the cast, including Robert Hayes and Julie Haggerty, as well as more casting dirt. Sigourney Weaver maybe could have been in the movie. Letterman said, they were really nice to consider me for a film, because I could see where people would think, oh, we have a thing where we're opening an Alpha Beta supermarket. Can you come out and talk to the bag boys? That made sense, but a movie? And the guy who produced it was Howard Koch, who had a legitimate movie career and big-time credits. He was somebody that I was even aware of, so I thought, geez, he's not going to want anything to do with me. I like those guys, and when I saw the movie, it was just delightful, and I was delighted to see it knowing that I didn't have to look at myself, because that would have ruined it. If not the whole movie, it certainly would have ruined it for me. David Letterman eventually hosted Late Night with David Letterman before leaving to go to CBS. He was replaced as the host of Late Night with David Letterman by Conan O'Brien, and that in the business is what we call a segue. Conan O'Brien spoke to Kara Swisher about political humor, something Conan doesn't do. And Conan said, for me, it was always what serves the comedy and what's funny to me. The truest, most visceral comedy to me is always going to be Warner Brothers cartoons that were made in the 40s and 50s. That's the stuff I grew up on that was shown in reruns. I liked that kind of comedy. I was never as comfortable with comedy where I needed to make a point about something. And then the conversation talked to goofing on Trump. Conan said, years and years and years ago in another lifetime, I worked on the Lampoon back in college. And what we always knew is that you can do a parody of Sports Illustrated. We'd do parody magazines. You can do a parody of Newsweek magazine. I wrote a parody of George Will where he's defending the feudal system. It was like, you can parody things that you can parody. People magazine is about its superficiality, and it's put Brooke Shields on the cover holding a fish. You can parody those things. But you can't parody the National Enquirer because the National Enquirer can't be parodied. If you go and buy a real National Enquirer, it says Elvis sighted an UFO, he has tentacles for arms, ghost baby turns into vampire and attacks Michael Jackson's ghost. There's no way to parody that. You can't parody something that already has that crazy irregular shape. It's not possible. So I thought when Trump came along, what a lot of people have to revert to is, doesn't he suck? I hate that guy. Kara Swisher asked Conan O'Brien about Greg Gutfeld, and Conan said, I haven't seen it. I drove a bus for 28 years and I retired from the bus company. I don't ride the bus much anymore. I'll walk rather than get on the bus, so I don't watch a lot of things. I see things here and there, but I don't really know Gutfeld. And that's not me being a knee-jerk, fuck, so I'm not going to watch that, man. It's more like I honestly am not aware of what's happening, so I don't know. I think the bigger question is the future of late night, because we all know that time itself is becoming irrelevant. I think we're probably going to have to part company with the term late night at a certain point. I'm not just saying that because I'm no longer part of it. I hate when people say, well, I've left football now, so now it's irrelevant. No, that's a jerk move. I don't believe that. I just believe it was changing when I was there, and it's going to continue to change. I believe that talented people who have something, a funny style or a way of connecting with people will continue to flourish. It's just that the medium will change around them. So it might not be called late night. For example, I have more young people come up to me, and all they want to talk to me about is the podcast. I've run into people who have their earbuds in, and they'll tap me on the shoulder and go, I'm listening to you now. Well, late night is back, baby. All the major shows did not waste any time. John Oliver back tonight. The Daily Show will come back on October 16th with guest hosts. Colbert, Fallon, Kimmel, and Seth Meyers all back tomorrow night. And a reminder, there's no more 12:30 Late Show on CBS. They gave up on that. At some point at midnight will show up. Mac Packer, Keegan Michael Key, has a new book, The History of Sketch Comedy, A Journey Through the Art and Craft of Humor. In the book, Keegan remembers the impact that SNL had on him and on his dad. Key writes, the first time I remember hearing my father laugh was in the living room of my childhood home. My father watched the TV screen in awe and in glee, and he was chuckling. My man was chuckling. My father, who was 6'4", 270, and an otherwise very stoic man, was losing his damn mind. What was happening? Turns out one of the greatest comedic talents of all time was on TV. Who was it? Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy was doing the sketch with Stevie Wonder. In the sketch, Murphy plays an executive auditioning talent to play Stevie Wonder impersonators, one of whom is the real Wonder. That ultimately leads Eddie Murphy to do his own Stevie Wonder impression. Key writes, and then get this, Eddie starts singing like he's going to sing better than Stevie Wonder, and he does. What the heck? My little mind was blown. There's a new PSA out. The headline, Comedians Aren't Just Joking, and a chilling new PSA by Sandy Hook Promise. From the press release, as the U.S. surpasses 240 school shootings this year, Sandy Hook Promise launched Just Joking, a public service announcement to underscore how important it is to take threats of gun violence seriously. Now, I started to pull a clip from this, and it's just not going to work in terms of this podcast. I'm going somewhere with this. There's comedians involved. Here, let me just tell you. The PSA features a lineup of comedians, including Billy Eichner, Wanda Sykes, Margaret Cho, Jay Pharoah, Roy Wood Jr., Caitlin Reilly, David Cross, Iliza Shlesinger, and Rachel Bloom. So I could pull the clip, and you would hear the comedians say things like, this is just awkward. There's no way to get into it. This is why I didn't pull the clips. But comedians saying things like, I'm going to shoot a school, right? So like, that's not funny. And without the visual, I don't think it would have worked. In the PSA, audience members assume that comedians are performing regular stand-up routines. Yeah, it's just shot. Like a lot of these look like they were shot during the actual specials the comedians were doing. Audience members assume the comedians are performing regular stand-up routines and just joking. It's later revealed that what the audience thought were punchlines were actually all real threats made by school shooters across the country. The chilling realization that the comedians were not just joking wakes viewers up to the importance of taking all threats seriously and taking action when there are warning signs of violence. Tom Segura spoke to Las Vegas Magazine, and he's working on a new hour and said the fun part of building a new hour is the stage where you're really excited about new stuff and you've let the old stuff go. I have a routine where I look at a special coming out as like a finale of the material. I just accept it. Sometimes you get anxiety about it and go, oh no, I have to do a new hour, and you start to feel that before you're working on it. But the funny thing is, once you're doing it, it switches from anxiety to excitement. New stuff is always the most exciting thing, and you can't manufacture the pressure. Ask any comedian. There's no feeling like new stuff and nothing like being in that creative space. And sometimes it's hard when you're out there on the road and you're doing your hour and you're bored of it. You're actually bored, but you at the same time struggle to cook something new up. But when you're in a situation that I'm talking about, you have no other choice, and it's a good place to be. I'm really excited about a new project I'm working on. It is called Ghost, Scary Stories Today. It's October now. We're doing 31 ghost stories in 31 days. If you want to check that out, Ghost Scary Stories Today, wherever you get your podcasts. Pop Sugar spoke to Hannah Berner, who said comedy is a great way to talk about taboo topics such as mental health, the wage gap, or farting without making people uncomfortable. Hearing people laugh at something I'm embarrassed by or insecure about makes me feel less alone. Pete Corielli talked about how he met Sebastian Maniscalco. He was on Brian Kilmeade's show on Fox. Let's listen.
Oh, yeah, I met him on tour in Toronto. We were both on tour together. And we met at the airport briefly, and then coming down to do the first show, you get in a van to go to it, and there's a few other comics from like Australia and Canada, and we didn't know any of them. And Sebastian has a little hanger with a shirt, and I'm in the back of the van, and I go, I knew it. And he goes, what? Like, I told my wife on the phone, I bet he carries this shirt that he performs in separate. And he goes, I sweat. And I'm like, all right, whatever, guy. You're going to iron it when we get there, too? Right. And we hit it off,
That's how guys hit it off, by ripping each other cold.
Hilton Als writes for The New Yorker and was impressed by Michelle Buteau's show Full Heart Tight Jeans. Hilton writes, as Buteau sometimes rambled, seeing what would stick, I thought of her peer Tiffany Haddish. They're about the same age, and how Haddish's stand-up is a display of sensibility, how she wears her loneliness like foundation under her rouge. Watching Haddish perform, you have the sense that you're seeing a little girl who's been broken by love time and again, but knows there's some good stuff on the other side of that heartbreak. By contrast, Buteau kicks life's broken pieces to the curb and encourages folks, especially women, not to settle. At one point during her set, she asked female audience members if they were in relationships and if they were in unsatisfactory relationships. When a woman told her she was seeing a guy who was dating without intention, Buteau went silent. Then she told the woman to get out. Open your heart and legs to love. You never know what's going to happen. The Milwaukee Comedy Festival kicks off tonight with the official kickoff with Kelly Ryan. Tomorrow, the Roast of Milwaukee. On the 3rd, a dandy comedy show. The 4th, cast comedy. On the 5th, Todd Barry, who right now has the #1 comedy special of the year, according to Johnny Mac. MKEComedyFest.com if you want to check out more about that. And that is your comedy news for today. If you like the show, tell a friend about it. Maybe they'd like it too. And you can all follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your shows. See you here tomorrow.